Well, this is okay. So I often get compared to Russell Crowe,
I see it.
and but I looked up Russell Crowe. If you look him up, you look him up like Gladiator Russell Crowe, and then you see current Russell Crowe. And I'm like, I started to think, like, which one are we talking about here?
You will hope.
I'm hoping it's Gladiator, man.
That's hilarious.
All right, I have Myron, the entrepreneur. Welcome to
you.
Pub Wisdom.
Thank you for having me.
We were drinking Sam Adams Winter Ale, the beer we were drinking when we met, and I met you recently at one of our local establishments, CJ
Mahoney?
CJ Mahoney's. Almost got that wrong. And we sat there for a while, actually drinking beers, kind of doing our own thing, and then we eventually started talking and got to know you. You seemed like a really super cool guy, and
Thank you.
I asked you to come on here.
Oddly enough, it was hockey that started the conversation.
That's right, yeah.
Hockey. You were watching those the hockey highlights, and every now and then I would look up. It was a couple cool plays, and I think hockey is a really interesting sport.
That's right.
And that's kind of got going from there.
That's right, yeah. And I still play hockey as much as I can. I have all original teeth.
I've seen a couple hockey players, and they got some grandma teeth up in there.
Oh yeah. No, and that was. I think I also mentioned that point. It's like one of those sports that you there's no natural movements to it, so it's a very foreign game to learn, especially at an older age. If you learn it as a kid, it can be fluid and natural, but if you learn it as an adult, it takes a lot of like mental ability and repetition to get those movements down. And then when you take a break, it doesn't come back so easily. It's not like riding a bike. You gotta work at it again. But I've seen people that grew up playing and they stop playing, but then they come back to it as an adult and they can pick it right up.
Really?
So I've noticed that about that game, and I think it's a lot of things you learn as a kid and you grow up with. It's much easier to go back to and pick up on something new as an adult.
I think hockey is a very interesting sport. I couldn't tell you one real rule to it, but having met some hockey players, like I was telling you before, that these guys are huge. Like some of those players are huge, and you mean to tell me that you out there on skates, on ice, hitting this little puck around, and fighting people, right?
25 and 35 mile an hour.
I'm like, that's crazy. I highly respect the sport, so kudos to you for still playing.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. And I also can appreciate the fact that you can appreciate, athletes and even the sport that you're not a big fan of. I mean,
That's right.
I've learned to come to terms with that. I used to be very, very isolated. It's like, oh, my sport's the best, everybody else sucks. And it's like, I'm like, no, I can really see the athleticism and see and appreciate it. Mainly because I couldn't do it. Right? I couldn't do basketball. It was not my sport. But I see the people that do that. My goodness.
Yeah.
There's some gifted natural athletes.
I hate when, staying on the subject of sports, when people say like NASCAR, for example, is not a sport. Can you drive a car 135, 200 miles per hour like that? And, For that long?
Yeah, it's an endurance sport.
That's definitely an endurance sport. Even if you're going around the bend on the freeway, holding it like this in your car, you feel it all through here and everything like that. You know what I mean? So I learned to respect not just sports, but things that I don't understand, and then you kind of seek to understand. And once you seek to understand anything in life, right, you come from a totally different type of mindset. So I'm looking to just gain some knowledge. Explain to me what's going on because I don't know and I'm interested to learn. That's the kind of approach I take to a lot of
Two
things.
really good things that, you hit the nail on the head. That's what I say a lot. I seek to understand, and then exploring things as if you know nothing. It's going all the way back to Socrates, the Socratic method, and the wisdom I've gained from looking at old, I was about to say ideologies, that's not true, old philosophies, and approaching something as if you know nothing. And then when you start asking better questions.
You're right.
And kids are very good at doing that, and they will glean things out of you that they will find the limits of your knowledge. Like think about the little 3-year-old. That's why. Why ask it endlessly until it infuriates you. So.
I might butcher this quote, I forget who said it, but I just recently saw it. If you want to understand the mind of an entrepreneur, look at the juvenile delinquent. They are always pushed, like, I think at the end of the quote said, this sucks, how can I make it better? Is what the juvenile delinquent says. Pretty much if they don't like something, how can they fix it? How can they make it better? So that was the quote. If you want to understand the mind of an entrepreneur, look at the juvenile delinquent. And you just said, talking about that 3-year-old that's constantly questioning, asking why.
Yeah.
As we grow older, we stop asking why.
Very true.
And for me, I grew up in a household where asking why was you weren't allowed to question authority. Whatever was said was what it was, right?
As a parent myself, I understand that.
That's where that comes from. Stop. No, I said. But that that kind of stunts the growth.
Yes.
When you tell a kid to stop asking why, to stop questioning certain things, you do want them to question the status quo. That's how we come up with these new original ideas, stuff like that. That's why I love psychology so much. It begs you to ask the question why. I love that subject.
Yes.
In college.
So let's bring that around to who you are and where you came from and what you're doing right now. Just go from there, however you want to start that.
Well, I got my start in the hospitality industry, or just the workforce period. Pretty much in hospitality, I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school, and I wanted to go on senior trips. I wanted a car. I wanted to do everything that most of the other seniors was doing. And in order for me to be able to accomplish those things, I needed to fund them myself. And so that's what initially got me working. Is I wanted stuff. I wanted the stuff that my parents wasn't buying me. They was like, well, if you want that particular brand, or if you want this, then you need to go make your own money. And that's how I started working. I was catching the bus to work, to and from, doing what I had to do. I ended up discovering the business aspect of the hospitality industry at about 20. So from 17 to 20, I was waiting tables, bussing tables. I was a host. I was a dishwasher. I was whatever I needed to be.
Got to learn all the different roles.
Exactly.
Everything that's involved.
Everything that was involved with the day-to-day, daily operations, I got a chance to learn hands-on. I would literally, as a senior in high school, catch the bus from school, straight to work my shift, catch the bus back home, and do it all over. And that was my life. And I was, making what I thought was, I was making my little high school money, and it was good. I was one of the first kids in high school that had a job. I was able to get my first car. It was a 91 Grand Marquis. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was the first one out of my friend group to, get a set of wheels, and that kind of thing. So that's really how I got started.
Probably made you popular.
A little bit towards the end there.
Nice big comfortable ride like that.
You couldn't tell me nothing back then, man. I love that car.
Sure, yeah. Everybody loves their first car.
It was baby blue. It had the vinyl top. It was navy blue. It had the blue leather on the inside. It was loaded for what it was at the time. So once I discovered the business side of the hospitality industry, because you have to keep in mind the perception that I think that the hospitality industries, particularly restaurants, have. How many times I was told to get a real job?
Oh.
Yes. I can't count how many times I was told you need to get a real job, something that's you can build a career out of and everything like that. That industry was. I come from I want to say automotive family. Everybody works in the plant. I come from a plant family. Everybody works at the GM plant, the Ford plant, and the plant way of life and thinking. I quickly realized it wasn't really for me. It wasn't really for me. And so I stayed the course. Despite everything, I stayed the course. And again, I discovered the business aspect of it. And actually the general manager that I had at the time, his name is Marwan. Don't know where he is. Shout out to Marwan. For my 21st birthday, he actually made me an assistant manager, which was like an hourly manager. That's what he gave me for that promotion for my 21st birthday. I discovered new restaurant openings. I went to help assist with the restaurant opening actually in Auburn Hills. And I just went for assistance. They was like, we need more help. Anybody want to come to this new restaurant opening? Yeah, I signed my hand, and I walked in and was blown away. I'm like, what is this? What are y'all doing? I want to do it next time. And just having that persistence, like, you couldn't tell me I don't know if I said it to you when we met the first time, but I don't know what no means. Is when it comes to business. Once I set my mind to something and I say I want to do this, damn it, that's what I'm doing. Sooner or later, in some way, form, or fashion, if I set my mind to it, that's what I'm going to do. So when I saw that first restaurant opening, I'm like, this is the career part of it. So they allowed me to go on my first one, and it just kind of just snowballed from there. I ended up opening. This was with Logan's Row House. I ended up being a part of like 4 or 5 new restaurant openings. NROs is what they call them. And I would sometimes go from city to city or state to state doing them.
So you got to travel as well.
Yeah, yeah.
It got to be a certain level of excitement starting up a new restaurant and having people come in, like the rush of people coming in, and then.
Yeah. I remember the first time doing it, I was nervous as hell.
I'm sure.
I was so nervous. And I was a little miffed too, because everybody, to be able to be a corporate trainer, at least this was what it was at the time, to be able to be a corporate trainer, like you had to be top notch at your store that you worked at. So they're plucking all of these A1, A-list players from these stores, and they're building a corporate team full of all-stars. Now, somebody has to be at the bottom of that.
Of the all-star.
Of that all-star chart, right?
Yeah.
And that was me. And so I'm like, I am the best at my store. Why am I training on fry? Why am I training the fry cooks? I want to train the grill cooks, the high-profile kind of positions and stuff like that. So it was a humbling experience. And then after I was humbled, it became overwhelming. Yeah, I can train you one-on-one, but then I train 10 people at once. And and then you have to do it to the highest level because you got corporate watching. You want to make sure you're hitting all the specs and make sure you're doing everything right. So it was just over the top, overwhelming experience for me, to the point I got pulled to the side by a couple older cats that had been on a couple restaurant openings. And it was like, whatever you did to get here is what you got to do, because you're visibly nervous.
Yeah.
They was like, we're going to give you a chance to get your shit together.
Well, they recognize that, and
Yeah.
they recognize the fact that you got there.
Yeah.
And then, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, I'm not a public speaker.
Yeah.
I can do well one-on-one. Get me in front of a bunch of people, I'll start clamming up, I start stuttering, and nervousness kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
That definitely happened for me my first time on the road, but they gave me that pep talk. They told me, get back in here, do what you did to get here, and you'll be fine. Otherwise, we're gonna have to send you home. And it was like that. When you are out there corporate training, you're on the stage, and that was the first time where that became real for me. As far as everybody's watching you. You got on a different color shirt than everybody else. It says trainer on the back. Everybody is in their regular t-shirts and everything like that. You're always on the stage. Your uniform has to be tight. All that type of things. All those type of things. Every single time you go in there. So learning that and learning to maintain that presence of always being on the stage, knowing that even if you don't think somebody's looking at you, they're watching you. That's where I learned that. And so you have to imagine, I was 17 when I started. I got that promotion when I was 21. So I was in my early 20s out there on the road. Everybody is 10 times my senior. I'm the youngest one out there. I'm rubbing shoulders with the VPs and vice presidents of the companies, and then you got vice presidents and everything, the training and everything like that. Like I'm out there with those type of people, and you have to conduct and carry yourself in a way to maintain that they ask you to go to another opening. And so I learned a lot while I was out on the road. So it was cool living like a rock star for a while. Going from hotel to hotel and everything, literally living out of a suitcase. But that gets old. Sure. Like it's only cool for a while. Like you can only order so much room service, and it gets old after a while. So I kind of like I need to be home. And for a while I didn't do any openings. I wasn't traveling out of state for a while. I did it for like a good stretch. But that's literally how I got my start in the industry, and I just kind of flexed from there. And I kept building up my resume and my resume of experience. And just one thing kind of led to another one. I was always looking for that next plateau, right? I felt like Logan's, for example, was kind of like your family, kind of full service, kind of restaurant kind of thing. I'm like, okay, I want to do something better. I want to find like a more polished casual kind of ambiance. I want to do fine dining. I wouldn't mind becoming a chef. I really wanted to learn how to cook. Now, at Logan's, they taught me how to grill cook. So I can whip up a mean steak, right? Now I was able to take that experience and go to like an Italian steakhouse, for example, and say, hey, I'm a really good grill cook. Like I was waiting tables at this Italian restaurant, and the grill cook was terrible. He was burning steaks left and right, chops burning them. It was just straight terrible. The chef is on the expo. He had an outside expo, meaning that he wasn't in the kitchen. It was like
you could see him.
you could see the executive chef calling out the orders and stuff like that. Kind of like after the rush, and again I'm waiting tables. I was like, hey, it look like you need a grill cook. He was like, yeah, you know anybody? Hey, how you doing? My name is Myron.
Nice.
I was already working there, so it wasn't really a stage. Like he took me back there and like I showed him what I could do. He was like, you start grill tomorrow. Nice. And that's how I got my start with that one. So then from there, I was able to cross-train myself. I learned how to make pastas. I learned how to saute cook. I learned how to prep and do all of those different type of aspects that hadn't quite learned at my first stop. Mm-hmm. Even though I had all this training experience and everything like that, and it all kind of worked together. So that's I ran into an associate not too long ago, and I kind of was telling him a shorter version of that story. I said, anytime you want to learn something, you can either pay to learn it or you can get paid to learn it. I'm going to always choose to get paid to learn it.
Good job.
Right? There's an industry that's out there. Somebody's going to train you, say, hey, I want this job. And internally, you have that job for a reason. Right? Mm-hmm. So they're going to pay you to go through training to work that position and learn it. Or you can go sit in somebody's classroom and pay to learn it and then come out and still have no experience.
Bingo. Right there. That's, yes. I can totally agree with that because I'm in the engineering world, and they don't allow you to be an engineer in most places without a full degree.
Right.
But I've got the experience. I've got everything hands-on. I got the experience laid out, and I've dealt with PhD level engineers, and I've said, listen, you can't do it that way. And I'm like, well, they can do it. They're all in theory, but they have no hands-on.
Right.
I've been able to show them that I'm smarter than you at this and that. Maybe you want to listen to me. And, drop that ego because you got that degree. So I've done other things to kind of trick them where I would set up little brain games and stuff on my desk, and they would come up and they'd start cocking their head and looking at it, and they couldn't figure it out. I'd quickly show them how to do it, and okay, and then all of a sudden their ego starts breaking down. Like,
right.
Okay, maybe you are smarter than me at something, and then they see me on a little bit more even level.
Right.
Education versus experience is one of my pet peeves. I've stood on a pedestal from my soapbox and was talking to HR departments about this stuff, and it's like, track record, it's what you've done, it's what you can do.
Yeah. Education
shows you can learn something, and learn something that's dealt to you a certain way, but you have no experience working with it.
Right.
What's the difference? What's worth more?
There's a fine line. Like, I would never tell someone to further their education or go back to school if that's what they so choose to do. You know what I mean? But I'm not shunning education at all.
Me either.
But I'm saying that when it comes to the experience part of it, you need that as well. Mm-hmm. Like my experience was a bit of the inverse, right? I had so much experience. At this time, I had opened 4 or 5 restaurants as a new restaurant, as a corporate trainer. Mm-hmm. I had trained servers. I've trained the cooks. Now, some of these openings, I'm able to train on grill now because I've showed my worth and everything like that. I've been able to be a part of successful teams, successful in turning stores around, achieving top line sales, flow through, EBITDA, all that type of stuff. But what I lacked at the end of the day, when I was looking for the actual salaried manager position, was the only thing they had on me was, well, you don't have a degree, you don't have this. And they kept holding that over my head. So I literally had to go get a little certificate and run through some mods and some courses to get a certificate to say, yeah, he can actually do this. And I remember signing my first salary contract before I had even graduated. And so I'm like, I had to go pay X amount of dollars for this piece of paper for someone else to sign that says, oh yeah, Myron can do this. So like, for a job that I'm already doing. So I mean, there's a fine line to it, and like I said, mine was a little bit of the inverse. I had all the experience, but I just lacked a piece of paper that validated me. I'm looking at it, I don't need a piece of paper to validate. Look at my body of work.
Right.
So
that's something that Elon Musk has very famously said. Is I don't give a damn about your degree. You should show me your track record. Mm-hmm. And his list of his list of questions for, you know, someone who's applying for a job is basically that, you know, show me something you've done that's made a big difference in your job. I took his list of questions and I put that on a cover letter and I got that to my current employer. At the very end, I also did something that was a little bit more on the philosophical side of things. So I told him I wanted to create a kind of life where I want to leave something behind for my children. Along those words, I even forget my own darn words at this point. But the best thing was, at that interview, my boss slapped it down the stack of papers and he said, he goes, your cover letter's why you're here. He goes, your resume's crap. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, my resume was built for General Motors, corporate stuff, keyword searches, stuff like that. And it was just like, honestly, it's a horrible read, but it's what gets you in the door at those types of places. This business is the opposite of that. It's a small business, and the guy who runs it is a very, very matter-of-fact person. That when he read the cover letter, he said, I want this guy in here. And then I got sat down in there, and my boss's secretary said, you know, Sandy's very excited to meet you. I'm like,
right.
But when he said he read that last line about leaving something behind for your children, he said, he goes, I wrote those exact same words when I left Ford, you know, 30 years ago and started this business. I'm like, wow. So I had none of the qualifications of what they needed to work there, but he was impressed with the things I wrote and my own philosophy on life, and it does align very well with how they do things. And he brought me in like that, because I don't have a full bachelor's degree, but I'm doing work at that level, because I've got good experience in the automotive world, just not the industrial side of things where I'm working with right now.
Right.
But the industrial side of things has like a lean efficiency kind of philosophy that we work with. And then when you and I were starting to talk, I think we were starting to get into systems and how you're training people using different systems and getting people up to speed quickly. And I started telling you about some of the stuff I'm learning. I'm just learning this now, which I think is some of the stuff that overlaps with what we do.
It does. And again, you can learn something from anyone. That's something that I had to learn. I learned early, right? You can learn something from a homeless person. You can learn even if it's what not to do. So you always want to pay attention to people, right? You know, and pick their brains if you can. Network as much as possible, but always seek to understand and always seek out knowledge. The person who stops learning is the dumbest person in the room. Because same thing. The person that thinks they know everything is not the smartest person. That's not somebody. I never want to be that person. That's why I always seek to understand, and using that Socrates model of train me like I don't know anything. You know, I've walked into places knowing that I could run it. I said, but act like I don't know anything. Train me as you would a person on their very first day. Forget my background. I never try to lead with those things. You know, you don't lead with your title. Right. You just go in as yourself, and through your mannerisms, the way you carry yourself, they're gonna recognize what's what. You don't have to lead with a title. I think that's the most terrible thing to do.
Yeah, because leading with a title, I think, comes with a set of expectations that comes with that title.
Yeah.
And when you're leading with that, then you must have X, Y, and Z skills. And yeah, maybe not.
That might be your what that expectation that person is built. You don't know that's why when we met, I was like, I don't really say that I'm an entrepreneur, or I don't really say that I'm a CEO, because there's a certain level of expectation that goes along with that, right? And what your perception is of that role, what if that's my weakness? And you've built this perception up because I say that I'm a CEO of a corporation, and you've built me up to be something other than what I actually am. And so now when we converse and it may come to a point where I come to you for something, you may not give me everything that you can possibly give me as I'm looking to seek this knowledge, because I'm touting that I'm such and such and such and such. I'd rather just go in, just regular old me, seeking knowledge, and kind of just let the conversation flow from there. Same thing I did. I just recently reached out to, his name is Brad. He's the owner of AU Precious Metals out in Rochester Hills. I'm interested in investing in gold and silver. I don't know absolutely nothing about investing in gold and silver. So what did I do? I found my nearest bullion supplier and or bullion exchange. I called him, ended up speaking to the owner, and I told him, I was like, I would like to sit down and get a meeting with you, and here's what I'm looking to do. I want you to teach me and talk to me about gold and silver so that I can properly invest in this. And he graciously took the meeting. He was more than welcoming. Welcomed me into his office. We sat and talked for almost 4 hours. And we talked about gold and silver for only 45 minutes. Everything else, we were just kind of just shooting the breeze. He had a ton of questions about me. He wanted to know who I was, what I was about, and everything like that. So I gave him my background. And at one point, he was like, "Where did you study business?" I'm like,
In business.
In business, I've been doing it, you know. And he looked at me kind of the same moment, I'll say aha moment that you had when we spoke. He was like, "So you're an entrepreneur?" I'm like, "There's that word again."
Yep.
But I mean, I guess so, you know.
And I like entrepreneur because I think it's someone who's opportunistic, who's eager, and I see an opportunity, and I'm going to try to pounce on this and gather, and just go for it. And that's the way we really need to be. I really think we need to be teaching more of that, especially to our kids.
Yeah.
And I think you were saying before, like people come in, well, you should get a real job, but define a real job.
Yeah.
To me, working for someone, trading your time for money is a form, it's the slowest, most inefficient way to make money. It's also, the way I look at it, it's kind of a form of indentured servitude because they're only paying you enough to get by. And you got to keep coming back to them. You got to keep coming back to them, get more money, to just pay the bills every month. And
Right. You ever sat through a performance review?
Oh yeah.
You get all this stellar performance and all you're great, you're this, you're that and the third, best thing since sliced bread. Here's 15 cents.
Yeah.
Wait, what? What?
Dividing that by 40 hours of time.
It's,
You got a tank of gas, come on, man.
and then Uncle Sam got to get his cut. I'm like, I would sit through multiple performance reviews and get all these stellar, stellar performance metrics read back to me and everything like that. And I'm like, this is going to be a healthy, healthy bump in pay. And it never is. It's never enough, Even going through, and that was as an hourly, right? As I go through my salary management performance reviews, still stellar performance metrics and everything like that. I remember wanting to move outside of the kitchen. I started in in the hospitality industry, right, and running restaurants. I started in the front of house, so I was guest facing. I was interacting with the guests as they came in, and everything like that. Even when I started managing, I was managing the floor. I was the one who would, if you visit the restaurant, I was the one coming to the table. Hey folks, how's everything tasting? Is there anything I can do for you? How's the service? Blah blah blah. All that, kissing babies, making friends, all that type of stuff, right? And then I ventured into the kitchen, and it just happened to be a faster track of progression for me. Just to continue to take promotions through the kitchen, and so that's kind of where I stayed. And at some point, I was like, I want to bring it all together. I need to be a general manager. I want to learn how to be a general manager of a restaurant, right?
What better than having experience at every level? I mean,
of everything. I was like, I got the training part, I got the operations part, I have the front of house is what they call it when you run in the dining room, right? So I know how to interact with the servers, I know how to interact with the guests. I know now the kitchen fully, right? I'm a full-on executive chef at this point. So I said the next natural step in progression is for me to be able to build a team and run the whole thing. I was never able to find a corporate restaurant that was willing to take that chance on me. I won't say never, but it took a long time of searching for me to find that restaurant that would give me that chance.
Are they looking for someone with a specific degree for that, or?
That was a part of it. They was like, well, you didn't have the paperwork or what have you. But mostly for me, it was, well, you do so well in the kitchen. You do so great at running the kitchen. Your kitchens are very efficient, right? You're a great asset to this team. This executive chef needs you to be a part of the team in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So it was always pretty much you're too well at this spot, and if you leave, mm-hmm. who's then gonna fill that spot? I've been fortunate to work with some great people. For example, his name was Jesse Davis. He was an area director that I worked for that gave me the chance. He was like, if this is what you want to do, if you want to leave me with a big hole, you got to fill it first. Find your replacement. He said true managers are able to train their replacements. He was like, if you can't produce other quality managers, then you're not a good manager.
I guess that goes a lot with any position. If you know your position well enough, and you should be able to train someone to fill that position.
If the way he explained it to me, he said, if you're just the best, if you're the best that I got, you're always just going to be the best. He was like, you have to create someone else that can, he was like, you're not a carbon copy, so to speak, but you have to create someone else that can take that position and at least fill the gap that you're going to be leaving. Whether it's, he told me, he's like, whether it's one person or multiple. If it takes two people to replace your singular self, then that's just what it is. And oftentimes, that was the trail that I left behind, where I had to find 2-3 people to delegate to be able for me to move on, to split the role up and move on. I ended up having to move companies, and that happened for me. I ended up having to move companies sometimes to find that good role for me. So like when I was working for Darden Corporation, I got a job as a kitchen manager, running the kitchen, and it was all about systems and everything. Just building the systems, just working the systems that they provide for you. They're very cookie cutter. Anybody can do the job. It's so cookie cutter. That's why I didn't fit in. Right? I have such an eccentric sometimes way of thinking about things that it didn't really quite fit for me. They was like, we want you to be like this. I'm like, no, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna get the job done. But I'm gonna get the job done. And so I went to him and I was like, hey, I want to go back out front. I want to flex my chops and go back out front. Right? There was a new restaurant opening. I decided to do one more new restaurant opening, and I was like, but this time I want to go out front. They was like, oh, we'll give you X amount of $1,000 in a raise if you stay in the kitchen. Young Myron took that, not being able to break down that and what does that equate to, and if I break that down yearly with an hourly, blah, 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 what does that actually equate to? It wasn't enough. It's not something that I should have taken. I should have stuck to my ground and said, no, I want to go out front.
Because you wanted the other experience to open the horizons up for a bigger future.
Exactly. Exactly.
Thinking.
That's what I wanted.
But you didn't know at the time.
Exactly. So I took
it's a good lesson though.
low-hanging fruit, and I took it and I wasn't happy. Right? So they was like, oh, you got this brand new restaurant, brand new corporate restaurant, you're part of this, management team and everything like that. And I wasn't happy because I wasn't being fulfilled. It wasn't necessarily about the money anymore. I'm gonna say I made enough money, but it wasn't about that. I wanted to further my experience.
Fulfillment, yeah, that's a whole other aspect of it.
Yeah.
And keeping people happy at their jobs. I've noticed kind of the opposite thing in the larger, more corporate world. They'll take an engineer, and engineers are people who historically do not have the best people skills. They're a great engineer. They work their way up through the ranks, and they're lead engineer, and then they make them some sort of program manager. And they're not doing the engineering work anymore, but they're in charge of a whole bunch of people doing that work, and they don't have the people skills to work with all those people.
Right.
But the idea is to just keep promoting these people, and then you end up with these really toxic managers because they don't know how to deal with people. They know the job, but they don't know how to deal with the people doing the job anymore.
Yeah.
They just know how to do the job better than that person did, so they get really angry, frustrated, and then you get these horrible reviews, things like that from these people, but nobody trains them
on how to manage a person. Right. I had to learn that, and that was also a humbling experience. Learning that piece of it, because imagine young Myron getting his management position and just trailblazing and trying to grow within just trying to climb the corporate ladder, right? I was so hell bent, like you said, on the job. Can you do the job? You coming in today? If you come in, can you execute at 100%? That's all I really care about. You're gonna be here on time. You're gonna do the job, and we're gonna clock out. We all gonna go home, and we're gonna do our thing. We're gonna show up tomorrow. We're gonna do the same thing. But all I cared about was the work, was the job. I did not care about the people aspect of it.
Yeah.
I was actually training a manager to be a sous chef. I was training a sous chef. she asked me, she was like, did you know JG had a kid? Not at all. I had no clue. She was like, have you ever asked about these people's kids? Have you ever brought it up? You need to bring it full circle, she told me. She was like, you don't ask or talk to them about nothing about their personal life. Mm. All you care about is if they can come in and get the job done. She was like, that's why you get the resistance sometimes that you get, because you're just cracking the whip, you just slave driving.
Yeah.
You have to be able to bring it full circle.
From what I've gathered from you, just in this conversation, is your mindset, at least especially when you're young, was very much like an athlete, very goal driven, very direct. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm going to do. I'm setting my mind to it. That's mm-hmm. what you do. And then, as you're in position to training people, you expect that of them too.
Yes. And
you were kind of like you're saying, you're ignoring the human side of things.
Exactly.
And from what I've learned about managing, or what managers should be, is managers should be like mom and dad. Sure, you want kids to get good grades, but you know what? Let's check in on all the other things.
Yeah.
Let's make sure you're doing good here.
Yeah.
And then you can focus on that. And then when you build the happy family, then they function really well together.
And they perform at a high level. They're more willing to work for you, and you know, later on in my career is when I was able to really bring it all together. I had the technical part of it. Everybody's gonna know what's expected of them, and we're gonna do it, and we're gonna perform at a high level. But I had that people aspect of it as well towards the end, where I knew the right questions to ask. When I saw people, I would try to make it. I still suck at names, but I try to make it a point to remember something that you said to me. Right? I could not see you for 2 months, and I'll follow up on that one thing that we talked about. Hey, how's the hockey going? Damn, you remember that? Yeah, I remember you told me you were, you know what I'm saying, you played hockey and everything, so, you know what I'm saying, are you still doing that? How's that going? Yeah. I'm able to pull back on them into a connection that we made, and you're going to walk away not knowing that I don't know your name. Like, man, that guy Myron. Yeah. So once I figured out that part, I was able to bring it all together, and I had teams that would literally run through a brick wall for me. I'm like, I need you to knock that wall down. How you want me to hit it? Right here with the shoulder? How you want it? And those are some of the best teams when I was able to do that. I had a team I had a kitchen staff at one of the restaurants that I was managing at. And telling the story actually helped me to get another job. I was in an interview and I told this story. I said at one point I had a secret handshake with every single team member that worked for me in the kitchen. It all started the same, but we had something of our own that we came up with. And at the beginning and end of every shift, like say I was leaving early and I had the rest of the team closing, maybe I had a sous chef closing or something like that, closing the restaurant down, I would literally start at one end of the line with whoever was working, and we would do that handshake with everybody, and I would on my way out the door. The team, if on sometimes I forgot to do it, my team was mad at me the next day. Ooh. Like they was like, hey, you didn't shake her, we didn't do it. There's been times where I've been like with my coat on at the door. They was like, yo, Myron. I'm like, I forgot. I take my stuff off, I go down the line, we do our handshakes, and I get out of there. Nice. That was the people part.
Small things.
Yeah. It's the small things. Absolutely. And that was the team that would do whatever I asked them to do. Hey, I need you to stay over. I'm short-handed. I need you to do this. Can you help me? Blah blah blah. Those are the best teams when you're able to have that people part of it. It is taxing, but.
What you're saying there, it brings me to the core of what pub wisdom is. And went through divorce a couple years back, and I had my little bar, Johnny Black's, which was my go-to place. I was 2 blocks from there. I walked there. Mm-hmm. Worked in the house. When I didn't have my kids, I worked in the house, and then wandered over to Johnny Black's. By the time I was there like 3-4 times, I could walk up and they would just slide my beer over. Like, I didn't have to ask. Yeah. And like, these people knew me. Yeah. And it's like, in a very short period of time, and it's like, okay, I know I'm not the only person that comes in there. And I watch, there's regulars in there all the time. And they don't even say anything, their drinks are sliding up, their food's coming up. I'm like, how do these people know? Yeah. And over time, I just started getting to know the staff, started getting to know the regulars, I even get to know some guys, the cooks in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. And it's like, they just know. Yeah. It's like, okay, how do you know that? That's a lot of mental capacity. Yep. That bartender probably knows 100 people in their drink orders. So I started asking, how do you remember this stuff? Well, then they really said, I don't really know, but I couldn't tell you their names sometimes.
That's how it is.
I thought, wow, that's impressive. So, like you said, I can remember faces very well, but names I've never been good with.
Right.
So during my time going there, I thought, I'm going to commit myself to learning names. And that's a little thing that people key in on. If I walk in and the second time you ever saw, hey Myron, how you doing, man? I shake your hand and sit down and share a drink, and you're going to remember that. This guy remembered my name.
Yeah.
Crap, man.
Yep.
And I got to a point where I could do that. I could come in, I could, almost everybody working there, and everybody, all the regulars up and down the bar. I could come in, I could say all their names and sit down and grab a beer next to them, and everyone's like, wow.
That's important when you're talking about that people aspect of it. You know what I'm saying? Remember names and leading with that. That is a very important
I got a lot of free beers that way.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? So that staff that you described to me, more often, what's probably happening is they have a manager on staff that is leaning into that people side aspect of it, right? And managing the people aspect, in addition to the technical part, most likely too. But they are heavy on the people part, and that translates into the staff.
Yes.
I have always said that in management, at whatever level, when you have staff always emulates the patterns and behaviors of the management team.
Mm-hmm.
However you treat them is how they're going to in turn treat the guests that come in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that translates regardless of industry. However you treat your staff
Absolutely correct.
is how they're going to interact with, let's say, the vendors, whomever, what have you. So why not lean into that? Because it really is so important, especially now when you study business now. That's all they talk about is the work environment. As you talk about the young millennials and everything like that, all these toxic work environments that boomers taught us to just endure.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not doing that no more.
Right. Well, the boomer generation had it pretty good. I mean, they would go to an employer. That employer would employ them for their career, and also provide a retirement for them. In most cases, the bigger corporate world, the automotive industry, big time on
For
that.
sure.
By the time our generation got in there, those retirements gone. You know what?
Or they
The
look
economy's
totally
a little
different.
shaky this year. You're gone.
Yeah.
You're just a number. You're gone. I'm like, wait a minute. Loyalty just dropped out.
Right.
You're not loyal to me. Why should I be loyal to you?
Right.
That was an eye-opener for me when I left the state. Because growing up in Michigan, it's like, everyone is Ford, GM, Chrysler. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And see how a foreign car would drive out. Is that not a state plate? So, but I moved down to North Carolina, and my first thought was, oh yeah, it's going to be Ford, Chevy, Dodge trucks everywhere, right?
No.
Nope. Hondas, Subarus, Toyotas everywhere. Like, what is this? So I started engaging with some of the Southerners down there. Like, how come you guys don't drive American cars? Oh, American cars are terrible. I had one back in the 80s. Well, they were kind of junky.
All of them were
All cars
back
were
then,
junky back then. But yeah, and so your bad experience back then, like drive one now. And through conversation, I actually converted a few people back to American branded cars. But it took a lot. It took a lot to break that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, Japanese cars never break down. Well, as I start talking to them, it's like, well, you've been to the shop for this and that. Well, that just sounds like any other car. I mean, like, really? They never break down? You just told me they never break down, then you tell me you're in the shop for this and that. Get out of here.
Yeah.
So, but the loyalty, and the loyalty that the auto industry has let go of their employees here. And we see this here every time the economy goes up and down. I'm really fearing this next downturn. They just, okay, we're letting a bunch of people go, and you're just numbers.
Yeah.
And,
You see it
and
recently
it comes
in
from a
tech.
disconnect
Yeah.
from management way up high. When I was at General Motors, the manager that cut me, I never knew. I never knew who that person was. But you know what? That person didn't have a guilty conscience because he never looked me in the eye. They were talking about how my kids are doing, anything like that. I mean, it's like none of that. It's just like I got a spreadsheet. We get rid of 20 people here, 20 people there, gone.
You're just looking at the numbers.
Right.
You're just everything is about the
Cold
numbers.
is calculating, and there's no loyalty to that. And they don't. It comes back around because guess what? General Motors used to own 50% of the automotive market in the U.S. Something like 12% now, because of that flux. Every time they do it, it never comes back as strong. And they do it again, it doesn't come back as strong. They do it again, it doesn't come back as strong. And it's wearing away. And people buy cars like appliances. They no longer take pride in what they drive. It's just whatever.
The ownership has gone down. The entire business model of the automotive industry is changed from a consumer standpoint. There's everybody's leasing. So you talk about the loyalty. Like I really don't care about the car because it's not technically mine. I'm gonna turn it in. And when I'm done with this lease, if it's a GM lease, I may very well go over to Ford next time it's time for me to lease. Who has the most attractive offers and everything like that. You don't see as nearly as much brand loyalty as you used to in the automotive industry.
Hang around me enough, I'll talk you into a Tesla.
You said that. That's where we ended off on.
Yeah.
When we were talking. I was at a networking event and we were talking about Tesla. I ended up meeting the VP of EV for GM. At this event, and we got to talking and everything, and we had a Tesla driver there at our table, and we were all talking about our experiences with EVs and everything like that. Like, yes, I've driven a Tesla. It was a Model 3. Got in it. I like the way they drive. That's how I love the way they drive.
Phenomenal driving cars. Phenomenal.
But they lack the aesthetic that I'm looking for, like the minimalistic aesthetic, and I can appreciate that.
It's not for everyone, for sure.
When I said this to the young lady, and she had no argument or qualms with what I said. I said when I got into Tesla, before I started it up, I just seriously sat in it. My initial thought was, this is it. I'm looking at the interior. I'm like, this is it. So I need more from that aspect. Like, I like lines. I like proportions.
You don't have kids, do you?
I have a 12-year-old daughter.
Oh, you do have a 12.
I have a 12-year-old daughter.
So my kids are 8 and 11, and they make a mess. Every nook and cranny in a car now. I've cleaned cars and stuff, and it's like when cars have lots of buttons, getting the dirt out of all those buttons and stuff. So when I see a car like a Tesla, I'm like, this is easy to clean.
This is easy to clean. No, I need options. I want my car to look like a car. Remember when the hybrids and all those smart cars and everything was coming out? My biggest qualm was that it did though. I'm like, why are we making them look like that? Make them look like cars, and I think they will sell a little bit more.
Yeah.
I
love the retro stuff that was coming around like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Like and you're starting to make cars look like cars again, but it didn't last, and they only really, for some reason, only fed to the fringe buyers, the guys
the ones who appreciated that.
Right. Unfortunately, like I was saying before, people nowadays buy cars like appliances. I just, my refrigerator broke down. Just give me the next one.
Just give me the next one.
I don't care what brand it is. What's a good brand? Okay, I'll get that brand. I asked my buddy, what's a good brand? I'll get that one.
Yep.
That's all they look at cars nowadays.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, and for those of us that have been enthusiastic about cars our whole lives, it's kind of a meh.
That's right.
But for me, like a Tesla, it's a different kind of thing because I was a gearhead. I was a muscle car gearhead, GM, Chevy driving car. I mean, it was just like, if it's got a V8 and it roars, I like it.
Right.
But I got in a Tesla, and it's just, there's no roar, it's silent, and it's just whoosh.
Yeah.
And there's a weird feeling in your brain when that thing accelerates. And, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And it's, all of a sudden it was fun to drive again, where cars over the years have gotten kind of boring and monotonous. And I know all the tuning that goes into it. I know what happens when you push that pedal down, and the engine's got to back off timing and everything else, and it's got to shift gears, and then it kick in, and it's like air's got to flow through. It's got to inject fuel, and it's got to burn it, and it's got to be able to do it correctly, and it's got to burn out the catalytic converter so the emissions are correct. All these compromises that go in when you push that pedal down. Electric car,
None of that.
It's 0, 60. 100, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And that is just, that's
it's a
brought the
completely
fun
different
back.
driving experience.
Yeah, it
completely
brought the fun
different.
back. And then the dynamics of a vehicle. So the physics of it. So EVs are a little heavier. They're not a lot heavier. They're a little bit heavier. People think they're a lot heavier. Depends on how you build them. Teslas are doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Bring that mass in between the wheels and under
Lower.
and on the floor. You've got no engine hanging out over the front wheels. You've got no gas tank hanging over the rear wheels. And then think about like an figure skater when she's spinning around, and her arms are out really slow, and then she brings them in. She spins real fast.
Yeah.
You bring that mass inside the center of gravity, you could turn that car really quick. It's
Yeah.
very well balanced.
Yeah.
Put that mass way out there, you're going to turn it, and you got to really
Yes.
muscle that weight around.
Yeah.
So it's the difference, and EVs are always going to be that way.
No.
And a gas engine will never be able to compete with that.
Now I said this. Someone's like talking about how fast Teslas was. I'm like, Teslas aren't fast. They're quick.
And that's a very accurate statement.
They're not fast. Those are because the
Fast would be 200 plus. Quick is 0 to 60.
0 to 60 in 2 seconds.
Quarter mile, yeah.
Yeah. That I'm like, there's a difference. That's not a fast car. that thing
You
can get off the
stop
gun
and
quick.
your eyes blur.
Yeah. I said that thing can get off the gun quick, but it ain't fast. I said, and they was like, well, you're right. You're 100% with the lower the center of gravity, with the how you put the battery packs on the bottom, and just the entire figures of a car changes when you're driving an EV.
Yeah, and I probably just got maybe too much engineering nerded out on you on that one, but and you were saying you like the aesthetics, and that's a whole other thing in cars too, which cars in general have gotten away from. And if you look at every SUV out there, can you really tell the difference?
They kind of look the same.
I mean, it's like NASCAR, where it's just the same body, we just put a different sticker on the front end to make it. This one's a Chevy, this one's a Ford, this one's a whatever else, Toyota, whatever else is out there in NASCAR now. The same body, and it's just put different stickers.
Put different stickers on there, and they call them different. You want to look at even for the general consumers cars. You look at the Ford Expedition. That is side by side. That looks like any Chevy.
Yeah, the Expedition and the
Navigator?
Suburban.
Oh, the Suburban.
Side by side, they're almost identical. I mean, who copied who at this point?
Right.
Come on, guys.
You look at GM's lineup with even from top to bottom. You got Cadillac's Escalade, you got Chevy's Tahoe, and then you got GMC's Yukon.
Mm-hmm.
Profile is exactly the same.
They're all identical. Yeah, it's sad. I really wish. I like the days when they all looked a little different.
Yeah.
They had an identity to them, and it's what you want to drive.
Changing the front and rear fascias and the side paneling and stuff like that is not enough. Just because you put extra chrome on the Escalade,
sticker.
this is not enough. I want to see more originality between these brands.
Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned before when we first met, I'm a GM guy. I've ever since my 2 Fords, I've driven 2 Fords.
I was.
That's what you were saying. I've just been
They cut my heart out. So.
nothing but GM.
Yeah.
So like now I'm a fan of Cadillac. That's what I drive now. And so I'm really in love with what they're doing right now with their EV market.
They are sharp. Vehicles.
They are good looking cars. They are great looking cars, and they have the same miles, the 400-mile range, and everything like that. I'm like, why can't I think everybody should be on that same wavelength as far as what they're doing with the overall aesthetics of their cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're doing a good job of taking their most popular nameplates and transferring them over to EVs now as well.
I think in the future, you'll see the fact the open interior of EVs will be a new creative space for them. So I think a lot of them will be able to do different things. Right now they're experimenting, I'm going to put my screen this way, or I'm going to put my screen this way. No, I'm going to make my screen go all the way across the whole dash.
Yeah.
I've seen it all already.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think people are going to like different things, and that's going to create good variety.
Yeah.
However, the exteriors are going to remain for at least a little while very, very, very aerodynamic, because they want to keep the range up in those things. And
that makes complete sense.
It does. However, once you factor in the fact that you can plug that thing in a home and leave your house every morning with a full charge, what kind of range do you really need at this point?
Right. And as we were saying before, at least right now, most folks that are going to be attracted to EVs are, low commute. Mm-hmm. You're driving 50 miles. Mm-hmm. You got 400. You don't even have to plug in at night.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the range anxiety that people were having, I'm like, you're overthinking.
It's unfounded.
It's very unfounded. So I still understand why they wanted to push it up. Because if I can get 390, 400 miles out of my ICE car, I want the same. Mm-hmm. I don't necessarily want to compromise.
We fear change. It's human nature just to fear these changes.
Yeah.
It's getting back around to loyalty and customer loyalty, and that's kind of what we're getting at with the. Correct me if I'm wrong in the statement, because I'm switch real quick. I would call it service industry, but you were calling it hospitality industry.
It's one and the same.
Same. Okay.
It's
So I'm not incorrect by saying service industry.
You're not incorrect.
Okay.
Now, it's one and the same.
Okay.
It's one and the same. Like when you're talking about the hospitality industry, that can include casinos, it can include hotels, even everything like that. So I lump everything up.
Okay.
But when you talk about the service industry, that mostly includes some like a restaurant providing that type of service. But it's essentially, it can be one and the same.
So with the skill set you've built throughout the years and your knowledge, can you just walk into any single bar or restaurant and identify a dysfunctional staff?
My mother hates going out with me. My mother hates going out with me for that reason.
Out?
Yes. She was like, "Can you just be normal? Why do you have to pick this place apart?
Just enjoy your food."
Just enjoy the food." I'm like, that bartender is struggling. Like, did you? I can, like, if it's an open kitchen, I can tell you which station is crashing. I can tell you, so many things just by sitting at the set bar. Yeah, I can't at this point. I can't turn it off. Just like that aspect of me is so, well ingrained in me, because that is where I learned a lot working in the service and hospitality industry as a youth. I didn't complete college before I had so much experience in the hospitality field. Right, and like I said, I was going on restaurant openings at 20, 21, in my early 20s and things like that, and rubbing shoulders with all these high level people.
Basically, your college education.
That was and I say that was college before college for me. Before I decided to sit down and go get my restaurant management degree, that built my experience. My professors was looking at me like, "Why are you here?" Like, one of them really pulled me to the side and was like, "There's absolutely no reason for you to be here." I'm like, I am literally here to get this piece of paper, and I'm it. That's it.
Yeah.
So I can walk in an establishment and just pick it apart.
I wish colleges were more forgiving for testing out of certain things. I wish they were, because I had high school auto mechanics.
Okay.
And I went into the field after that. I worked for 2 years, and then I went back to college. And then my college degree was actually automotive engineering. An associate's degree that takes all of your engineering knowledge and pours it directly into the automobile, breaks it down nicely. I was able to test out of the first couple classes, but they only let you do so much. But because of my high school knowledge, I had 2 years of that in high school, which was tremendous. Awesome. And it's a vocational trade that we don't do much anymore, and it's one of the things that we need in this world. Everything's so college focused. I'm like, you know what? I got a smartphone. Majority of stuff
is available. Knowledge is available.
I can dig up on my phone. I mean, it's all out there. It's all the information's out there. There's a commercial that when smartphones first came out, and it was funny to me because it was people using smartphones for dumb things.
Yeah.
85% of people out there probably do it that way.
Using smartphones for dumb stuff.
Fine, great. Play your games, do whatever, but there's a certain level of people out there that we're going to use this stuff to expand our knowledge.
Right.
Almost obsolete in college. Almost.
There is, so when I talk to young people that's like fresh out of high school, I oftentimes don't encourage them to go right into the workforce because they will get abused. Right. There is something to being on a college campus. There is something to getting that experience and exposure. Very similar to the experience and exposure that I got by being on the road at a young age. Yeah. It is almost one and the same.
It's probably the independence from the family.
I was miles away from my support system, from any type of safety net. Right? I had to get it or get going.
I would say it forces you to learn. Exactly.
It forces you to grow up.
Yes.
It forces maturity on you.
Well put.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so if you're going to go to college, that person that says out of high school, I'm just going to take some classes online, I don't suggest that at all. You're still at mom and dad's house. You're still got the same environment, same friends group. You need to, if you're going to go to college, go to college. Go live on campus. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's how I encourage when I talk to the young folks and stuff like that, right? If you're gonna go to college, go to college. Get that independence.
I would say military experience is also very similar to that too. I mean,
Yeah, military experience is also that way. I remember being in high school and getting recruited for the military. My mom was like, hell no. She was like,
you did a good job in those high schools, which I got to tell you.
They would
you like another beer? We can pause for that if you like. And
yeah, you said you're only gonna have one.
I'm only gonna have one, but
yeah,
you're more than welcome to have one because I gotta play hockey.
Yeah, you gotta play hockey.
We'll pause for a minute.
How are you doing on time?
Commercial break. Hey, this is a good opportunity for a sponsor. How about that?
Oh man, there we go.
All right, hold on. On next Pub Wisdom, Mike and I discuss, is Christmas overreaching its allotted time? Your thoughts, Mike?
Back off, claws, until a turkey is digested.
All right, we're back. I forget what we were talking about already. But it's been good having you so far, man.
Thank you, man. Great conversation.
Yeah, good guest, and very appropriate for the title here too. I mean, pub wisdom, service industry, hospitality industry.
Ton of background there.
And I'd like to have more guests that actually work in it. I'm sure there's bartenders out there with some really good stories.
I bet, yeah.
Because I've known a lot of bartenders, and I've been at the bar, and I've seen them deal with many adult male babies.
That's a good way to put that. That's sometimes how they act, man.
Yeah.
I am not a great bartender, because I don't like to pour. I can do it. I can
That
count.
Marvel, I'm like, give me a beer.
Yeah.
But I will watch them pour drinks, man, and they're so quick at it. And like,
I can't remember all of the recipes. I can if I really wanted to, but I've never really had the desire to be a bartender. Through training, you have to, and I wholly believe this, you need to learn all aspects of it. Because it comes from that appreciation point.
yes.
If I don't appreciate you and what you do as a bartender, and I just shit on you, I have to go back there, get in it, be of it. So that's going to build an appreciation for what you do. You know, so I was never a great bartender because I don't like to pour the drinks. Now, I'll pour you a beer all day. I can pour a great beer. Or an inch ahead, I'm good, right?
Yeah.
I can do that all day. But I have to manage the whole operation. And I definitely got to the point where I was managing the whole operation. And just going behind that bar and dealing with some of those grown men, I'm like, you can't. I said, I know you don't got a lady in your life. I know you don't got a lady in your life. The way you acting right now.
That's why they're there.
I'm like, this is ridiculous. You definitely deal with a lot of characters in the industry.
Yeah.
Even just in the general dining room. I was talking with a guy about this today. I was talking to him about what I'm doing with my hospitality division, with the quick service concept that I'm putting together, and then the bistro concept that I'm putting together as well.
Yeah.
And I shed a little bit more light about what I'm doing with my retail division is also. And he was like, so when do you have time? And I'm like, I've always said you make time for what you want, right? Today, I'm not even supposed to be here right now. I wasn't available. You asked me to do this, I changed some stuff in my schedule, and I made myself available, right?
He's here, man. Thank you.
And I'm here. You make time for what you want.
Much appreciated.
You know, no problem at all. No problem at all. So, with that being said, he was like, I want to get into I want to get into the hospitality industry. I want to get into the restaurant things. And I started shedding a little bit of light. I'm like, it is stressful as hell. You know, it is one of the most stressful things in industries that I feel like you can be in. For a number of reasons. But just to let alone the fact that you're dealing with people's food. And you know how serious people can be about their food. And you dealing with.
I know to get a little food aggressive.
Usually, and you know, we call it in the industry.
Never with the server. Never with no. I personally one of my personal philosophies is don't criticize unless you can do better yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that goes a long way, and I wish more people knew that.
Yeah.
Just like the bartenders, man, they can mix those drinks together, and like, I would never, ever complain about that.
Because that's something that we aren't really able to do at a high level. So when you see them do it, right, kind of the same thing that kind of glued us together with the hockey.
Yeah.
I can, like I said, what's that joke?
Appreciation for what those guys do.
I can barely walk in a straight line. These guys out there on ice skates, bumping into each other and fighting. Yeah. I can't do that. I appreciate that. I can show some appreciation for that. You know, same things like the World Cup is going on with the soccer. Mm-hmm. You know, same thing. That is not a sport that I understand. But what I do understand is those guys have some hell of endurance.
Yeah.
They out there. I couldn't imagine running for.
It's a massive field.
That is a huge field.
It's huge.
And they out there running for 45 minutes straight. And you mean you don't got no points? I'm mad. I'm mad.
I wish it would be a little smaller. I don't know. I like the physicality of it. That's why I like hockey.
Yeah.
I saw a meme today. It was a soccer player on the ground holding his leg, crying, and he was like, "Can't believe the referee won't make the call," or something like that. And then there's a hockey player bleeding. And he's like, "You can't believe the referee make him leave the ice because he's
right."
It's like, stitch him up,
stitch him up. You're right out there. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. What's that? Blood? That's it.
I don't care if you can't bleed on people. So you go stitch it up and then come back. That's the difference between hockey players and then soccer players. And
that's the difference between hockey players and all other sports. I feel like.
I guess so. Yeah, they're tough hombres. They really are.
Yeah.
I know, I've knocked a few of them out.
Man, really?
They don't go out easy.
You got that, and they've watered football down a lot. With the football,
they've been doing it to hockey in all honesty too.
They've been doing it to hockey as well.
And for some of it's for good reason, but not all of it. But yeah, go ahead.
I mean, the physicality overall of the two sports, like I feel like I do even like I don't play football. Right, I've never really played football. I did play what we call, I don't know what they call it out here, but I'm from Detroit. We call it pick 'em up, mess 'em up, where it was football with no pads. And you get the ball, you have a goal, you got to get to the end zone, and if you get mangled on the way down, you get
basically
mangled.
No stoppages in plays.
No stoppages. Yeah, until someone.
Yeah, we did that too.
If it's called, if your bone break, then you might have to go sit down. Yeah, it was called pick 'em up. Walk it off. You know. But the I felt like football used to be way more brutal.
It can be. I mean, you're running headfirst at each other.
Right.
I think you're kind of going with each other. Mm-hmm. Maybe the boards get in the way, and the boards do give, and there's some trickery to it. The hits that look big, when they go up into the glass will flex.
No, really?
Down below, not so much. You get hit down low, ooh, that hurts. Yeah, so if you go down on the ice and you get driven into the boards,
okay,
that's
no
bad.
flex there.
That's bad.
Like I've never been, and I would love to go to a hockey game.
Yeah.
I hear it's kind of cold though. In the hockey. I don't like cold.
I mean, you go with a hoodie, maybe a jacket. You'd be good.
Okay.
It's chilly in the arena, but I mean the ice is cold, obviously. But you get a lot of people in there, it tends to warm up.
Same thing with like another sport. Like I love basketball. Basketball, the NBA is my favorite. I love it. I follow it. Given my busy schedule and such, I haven't been able to get to games or really even watch them on TV. I don't watch a lot of TV. I watch a ton of documentaries. I study presidents. I'm actually, believe it or not, studying Nixon. I'm sorry, Reagan.
Oh.
I'm studying Reagan right now. I watched a documentary recently about his aide. I can't remember his name. Maybe it's Jim Atwater.
I do stay out of politics in this podcast. However, no, not at all. We can talk about stuff like that. The political ideologies is what I really get about. But I mean, you're talking about the historical aspect. I think that's fine.
Yeah, my bad.
Don't apologize. And I didn't forewarn you either. But that's the one subject I won't get into, at least current politics.
Yeah.
And what people get all worked up about.
I do not do that part. Even when I do, you know what I'm saying, speak on the subject, I'm not about to get worked up on it. You know,
Yeah.
I've learned to disagree with someone, right,
My
without
goodness,
being negative.
Really?
Yeah, that is
You can't do that nowadays. You have to pick a side.
You gotta pick a side, right? And you have to, like, if you're not on my side now, I hate you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Exactly.
But I remember, I come from, I'm gonna seek to understand.
Yes.
And so, if you believe differently than I do, I want to know why you think that way. You know, what did you grow up a certain way? Where did you grow up? I'm gonna ask you a ton of questions so that I can better understand you and your thought process.
That's a great way of thinking. It's a good philosophy, and I think good philosophy immunizes you from those weird ideologies. Plus, because you're seeking that person out and you're trying to understand that person, now you know how to negotiate around them, right? Now they won't be an obstacle to you anymore. It's like, okay, I know this person's going to go off the handle if we go this way. Maybe I can go around this way and try that.
Exactly.
So, yes.
So I'm always looking to do that with people when I interact and everything like that. I'm looking at you know, not facial features, but you know, if I ask you a question and you look to the left, that tells me something. If I ask you, if you start fidgeting when I get on a certain subject, I'm looking at you.
He's a poker player. He's reading me right now.
You know, again, that came from my love of psychology.
Yeah.
And learning to read people and then just beg to ask that question, why? And then and from there being able to use everything to my advantage, and that's not necessarily a bad word,
No.
because you're not taking advantage of people.
Yeah.
But as a businessman, as an entrepreneur, I'm always looking for an advantage.
Well, it's being an effective communicator, right? And that's what you're doing, and I have no problem with that. I think that's actually pretty amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
Probably why you and I seem to agree on a lot of things, and we seem to think alike. And
Yeah.
We've come to there probably from different routes, and that's one of the reasons I want you on here. I want to talk to you more. Well, I want to find more out. And
Yeah.
I'm listening intently. It's like, wow, I'm saying a lot of the same things I think about. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not always common to find like-minded individuals.
No.
And I enjoy speaking to like-minded individuals.
Once again, this is why I'm doing this. And it's actually why I'm doing this, because I've met cool people at the bar. And you're just another one that I've met. It's like, okay, I met another cool guy. Let's get him on here. Let's do this.
Yeah, and you know what was so crazy about that night? I actually pulled into my driveway. I was not gonna go out that night. You know, I was coming from my mother's, and we did Thanksgiving because it was Thanksgiving when we met.
That's right. It was
Thanksgiving. And I was coming from my mother's, and I had literally drove about 45 minutes from her.
I wasn't gonna go out either, and then like a couple of the staff at the, I'm like, oh, we're serving.
That's what you told me.
Aw.
That's what you told me. I was not gonna go out. I was coming off the freeway. I'm driving down the road. I was in my driveway, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna see what's up there, right? Because I remember I was there a couple weeks ago. That's like, oh, we're gonna be open on Thanksgiving. We're gonna be open, you know what I'm saying, the full kit. I was like, man, really? They're gonna be open on Thanksgiving? And I literally pulled in my driveway, sat there for 2 seconds, shot up there, and it was just completely happenstance because I wasn't gonna go out that night. I was full, but my mom, I'm a big wine drinker. That came from working in the Italian, with the Italian restaurants that I've been a part of. I learned how to drink wine. I learned how to pair wine. That's how I started drinking red wine, because I did not drink red wine at all. But I learned how to drink red wine with food and pair it properly. You know, so again, I wasn't gonna go out. She bought me some wine, and I swear it didn't have any alcohol in it. I drank the whole bottle, and I was like, I'm still good to drive.
Juice.
Right? I think she might have pulled one over me talking about this Pinot Grigio. I'm like, this is white grape juice. This is Welch's. So I really just went there for a couple beers, and I was gonna, you know what I'm saying, get out of there. I thought I was gonna have 2 and go. I didn't.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't think that I was gonna be there too. We did. We closed the place. We did. I didn't think that one hockey thing was gonna turn into that. But you know, but here we are. So.
And you also were getting on another subject I really like is communication and reading people, facial expressions.
Yeah.
I hate texting because it's so limited. The English language is so complex and diverse. And you can say something and mean 10 different things by the way you say it.
That's right.
If you're looking at someone, they can say it, but you can read them differently.
You get the full breadth of the context.
Right. So there's facial expressions, there's body language, there's tonality,
Yeah.
there's meaning behind the words and how you say it. So that's why I don't like text, because it's devoid of all that.
So as much as I agree with you on that, I text more than I call.
There's uses for it, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
There's uses for it, right? So, I mean, just like when you are texting back and forth, I appreciate your professional courtesy too. It's like you checked into just making sure we're still on for 6 o'clock today, or well, thank you, sir.
I told you, I think I might have said it. They tease me. A lot of people tease me. It's like, you must have been born half grown with a briefcase, because the way that you
was
like
very professional.
The way you are. They say I'm always professional. They say I'm always like. Remember, I say I'm always on the stage.
Yeah.
Right. You ended up meeting a certain version of me.
Yeah.
So I have to, not that I'm cognitively thinking, oh, I gotta keep this up, I gotta keep this persona up. I'm just being natural. I'm just being me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We made a date.
Yeah.
And I wanted to confirm. I'm like, hey, they was like, you're all. Can you turn it off? Just turn it off. So when I'm with my cousin, he'll tell me like before, like he'll ask me, hey, you want to go hit a bar? You want to go do something? Go out, get something to eat, that kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm available, or I'll make myself available, because I'll feel bad after a while of not making myself available for my family. Family is extremely important to me.
It should be, yes.
And so when my cousins or whatever have you call me and say we're doing this and I can't go, it hurts. It hurts. They understand, but it hurts me.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he'll call me. He just called me recently and was like, hey, can you come out? Can you do this? I'm like, bro, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to make that. But when I do make time to go out, like he'll stop, we'll be in the car. He was like, I don't want to hang out with Obama tonight. Can you stop for a second? Go in, give me a second. Go in, give me a second. Like, I gotta turn it off. I don't want to hang out with Obama tonight. He's cool, but so I have to remember sometimes that I'm not on stage. But from let's say from 20 years old, from 21 years old, I've always had that notion and that mindset that when I walk into a place, I am on stage and somebody's looking at me. And especially now with what I'm doing, and being an entrepreneur now is I just don't know when to turn it on.
Do you feel that that's a part of you, or is that a persona you put out? Is it a real part of you that you're turning on and off, or is it just a persona, or is it?
It's a little bit of both. I'll be honest with you. When I am at networking events, it's a persona. It's something that I have to turn on. That I have to. I meditate to because I'm very good at compartmentalizing. Right. So in the morning I get up at 6 a.m. sometimes. First thing, I got timer set. And I have a schedule. Whether I go to work or not, I have a schedule for myself. I'm up at 6:15, I should be drinking water. First thing you put in your body is water. 6:30, I'm meditating. By 7, I'm in my office.
Very disciplined.
Discipline is important. Discipline is important to
Yes.
success. Right?
I can agree with that for sure.
So, when some of my, not say positive affirmations, but that's what they are, but like through meditation, sometimes if I know I'm about to do something today, I'm like, that's something, you gotta be something else. Go be something else. Right? You have to turn it on, be something else. And sometimes it is something that I'll turn on and off. I'm actually kind of shy. I'm actually kind of shy.
I guess that.
I do have anxiety. I've actually had 2 real life panic attacks where my body was like, okay, you need to go sit down somewhere. Been in the hospital, I'm talking about panic attacks. I actually do have anxiety and a bit of social anxiety. But I go to all these networking events and I'm always in the groups of full of people and things like that. How do you do that and have social anxiety? you have to be mentally aware.
Hmm.
And so recently I was at a networking event, just recently with the Auburn Hills Chamber of Commerce. Shout out to the Auburn Hills Chamber of Commerce. They have literally embraced me as my entrepreneur, which you called me earlier. They have literally just embraced me as that. And I was recently at a networking event, and I was like very quiet in the beginning. I was non-interactive, very quiet. I literally like kind of ducked off on the side, and I talked to myself for a second. I said, you need to turn it on. They're expecting A, B, and C from you. They're expecting this type of person from you. So you need to turn it on. You need to do it right now. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Hey, how you doing? Right? And I just flipped the switch and I turned it on. So at some point, yeah, it is a persona that I have to keep up. But most of it is just inherent at this point. You know, like again, you asked me like, oh, when you go to a restaurant, can you just pick it apart? Yeah, that is ingrained in me. So like I know when I'm in certain settings, I'm like, okay, what are they expecting? Sometimes it's like a performance. Like you're on the stage and you gotta give them what they want.
I guess it's kind of like training for something too. You train for it and to the point where it just becomes natural.
Yeah.
And you've been doing it for so long that it's just becoming natural.
It becomes natural to you. Yeah.
So you kind of go into a mode, and that's.
And if I'm not in that mode, then I can't. You know, I've signed up for and committed to certain events, and it's like I'm not in that mode right now. So I know if I go there, I'm not going to perform, and there's no sense in me going if I'm not going to do it.
Sometimes it takes like a pre-game ritual.
Yeah.
To kind of get you in the mindset.
Yeah.
I've done that. I used to do that when I was fiercely competitive playing hockey. It was like I had to go through certain things before I was ready to go on that ice.
Yeah.
Even to the point where I'm putting the right skate on first and then the left skate.
Yeah.
Make sure the gear goes on in the right order. Otherwise, something's gonna go wrong and I'm gonna blame that.
You're gonna blame that one thing that you didn't do, right?
Fuck, I put the left skate on first, Carl.
Yeah, right. I didn't tie the bow.
Someone's gonna die out here.
So it's 100%. It's 100% like that for me. It's down to the way that I present myself, the way that I dress, the way that I do everything. Do I have to wear a suit every day? No. Do I always wear a suit? No, I don't. But I find when I'm not in the right gear, in that right mindset, I'm not in the mode to be maybe productive that day or whatever the case may be.
If you would have shown up here in a suit, I would have felt grossly underdressed.
That's why I wore
The hoodie.
the hoodie over it, you know.
You got a shirt and tie under that?
I do.
Oh.
So I had a meeting this morning. I had an engagement that I had to move around. So I'm like, when I get up, I know what's going to happen tomorrow. I have my events. I got my December schedule already made, kind of thing. So I kind of know how I need to present myself that day. And so that's kind of how it goes. Like it starts in the morning. So I'll do something in the evening, and they'll be like, "Why are you dressed?" I'm like, "This has been an all day thing for me. I've been at this since 6:30." So.
Wow.
It's an all day thing. I don't stop. Somebody asked me today, like I said, when do you make time to do certain things?
So you're making me appreciate your time even more for being here. And once again, thank you for coming here. And you've been an awesome guest so far.
Oh, thanks, man.
We can continue talking until you're done with that, or if you
Okay.
It depends on.
I'm on your time.
You're on my time.
I'm on your time. I've cleared the rest of my evening. When I leave here, I'm gonna get something to eat.
Okay. I don't want to keep you, but you're welcome to keep talking. Boy, I was gonna have at least one big question for you, something to think about at least. If you could talk to your 21-year-old self, what advice would you have for him? And I came up with this stuff. Wasn't prepared or anything.
If I could talk to my 21-year-old self, one thing that I was thinking about this today. I wish that I would tell my 21-year-old self to embrace his entrepreneurship spirit earlier. I'm not going to say I waited too late, because it's never too late.
Can agree with that.
To do anything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I waited too late. I just wish I would have started sooner. I still have the same.
God, sorry.
I still have the same drive and passion that I've had as a 21-year-old.
Mhm.
But fear is what stopped me.
All right, dog. Stop at the jingle bells.
Fear is what stopped me from pursuing a lot of the goals that I've had. The goals that I'm executing now are the same goals that I have been thinking about doing, right? But fear, for lack of a better word, has always stopped me and said I need to go punch somebody's clock, or I need to be going to go do this. So if I could talk to my 21-year-old self, I would just tell them just go do it. Don't wait. What you waiting for? That's my one wish. I'm saying regret because it's not a regret.
I feel the same way, but I don't like the word regret. I don't, because I want to learn from the past.
Right.
If I regret something, it means I didn't want that to ever happen. If I'm learning from the past, then it's still useful to me. And
I would just say start earlier.
I'm kind of in a similar situation myself. It's like, I had a rental property when I was in my mid-20s.
Yeah.
And when I moved to North Carolina, I was renting a house out up here. The short story is it didn't work out too well after the renters moved out. There was a downturn up here. I couldn't rent it, couldn't sell it, and I was stuck down there. It left a bad taste in my mouth. And it's like taking me many, many years later and to go through a loss in the family and a divorce to kind of like reassess myself, get this back. I need to get this going again. And now I'm back on track. And COVID hit too, which also slowed me down quite a bit. Like,
Yeah, that changed a lot for everybody. I lost an uncle who was like a father to me.
no,
To obviously it was complications to COVID. We didn't understand that at the time.
yeah.
But this was just like on the first wave of everything. And I dedicate a lot of what I'm doing to him, my Uncle James. I was the type in the family, even now when I go visit family, I'm the one, right? And I was recently talking to my mother about this. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand the pressure that I'm also living with. No matter what I was ever doing throughout my professional career, just period, my family was always told me, you got it. Whatever it was, you got it. You're gonna be the one. You're gonna be the one that, the first millionaire in the family. You're gonna do this. You're gonna be great. Blah blah blah. Everything like that. And so I felt like I've always had to live up to those expectations. Now my Uncle James, he was a corrections officer for the youth. Like he really cared about kids and trying to get them on the right track and stuff like that when they made mistakes. He didn't understand nothing about what I was doing as far as the hospitality thing. When I was like knee deep in the industry and trying to come up in the industry, he didn't really, it wasn't his forte. You get what I'm saying? But he was so encouraging and was like, whatever you decide to do, you're gonna be great at it.
Well, that's good.
And I actually lived with them for a while. I was down for a second, and they had opened up the home, allowed me to live with them, get my stuff together, and kind of just go on from there. He was just so encouraging, and then when I lived with them, the conversations that I had with him, I'm like, he actually cares. And he was married into the family. He was my aunt's husband. But he just leaned into me so much. And that's just the type of person that he was, right? And so with his passing, that is what kind of just, I don't know, something just clicked different for me at that point. I'm like, that was 2020. That was April of 2020. I think I retired a couple days later. I was like, I'm gonna pursue all of these entrepreneurial goals. I'm just gonna do it. When I created the Riga brand, I locked myself in my office for 2 days. And I did not come out until I had a corporation and its first LLC. My girlfriend at the time popped her, but she was like, you okay? I'm like, I do something. Get out, I'm working. I was that determined. Like for literally, no lie, 48 hours I was in that office. Filling up legal notepads with ideas and how I wanted the business to be structured and what I wanted to accomplish from it. Now it's morphed and it has become something, I'm not gonna say completely different, but it's morphed and become something a bit different from what my original idea was. But the principles was there, and I do a lot of the stuff, in his memory. His picture and obituary is actually still up on my wall. So when I'm sitting at my desk, I look up. And anytime I'm feeling discouraged or if I feel whatever, I kind of just look up and I'm like, well, I gotta keep doing it. Uncle James is looking at me, right? When I feel like when I launched my clothing company, Holy Grail. It's called Holy Grail Apparel, Clothing and Apparel Company.
Make sure you give me some links. I'll put it in.
Got you. I remember there was a time where I stopped and I was like, am I embarrassing myself? Am I putting myself out there? Because, you know, it says that fear of failure, right? I'm like, am I looking stupid? I got to go back and I think about him and I was like, okay, don't stop.
Keep talking. I'm going to look up something real quick.
So like I said, a lot of what I do is in memory of him because he was always so encouraging. And he didn't see me launch this company or anything like that. And I kind of wish that he was. So shout out to Uncle James.
And I didn't move fast enough. Where is it?
We'll edit this out.
oh, that's pulling all that up. Okay. Where is here we are. So I talked about T-shirts, right?
Yeah.
So T-shirts at JTK Studios is my name brand that came from me being a teenager doing videos and stuff. I resurrected it for this YouTube channel that I started this stuff on. So some of the goofy things I've said throughout the years, like, you know, I'm gone to evil college. I've got a PhD in everything. You know, it's like, you know, Mr. Know-It-All kind of type. You know, and then you know, of course, the planet Earth. Wish you were here.
Yeah.
That's one of the Stoic. Let's see, can I zoom in on that? Won't let me. Stoic quotes. What Stoicism's what
I like that.
the T-shirt I'm wearing right now. Yep. And then I don't get drunk or get awesome. That's of course the Rowdy Renaissance Festival music is a lot of what I frame in the podcast on. And this is just one I came up with on my own. I just thought it was kind of goofy. May not be for everybody. Good, you're laughing. That was done for a woman I was dating for a while. She was she would say she'd go throat punch people. I'm like, okay, you need a warning label.
Right.
That's another version of that one and that one. And then this one's, you know, speedometer 119 with all your checking lights on. Which is how some people run. I feel like that's in many days. This end up, good bar shirt. And these are what I refer to as bar shirts. So, you know, things that you would wear at a bar. And can you read that one?
Not really. What's it say?
It's free mammograms. I meant hugs. Definitely meant hugs.
Oh man.
There's a better version of it. It's a little easier to see.
I see that one.
What's that one? Oh, is it really antimatter? Yeah, so these are just some of the things I've come up with. So as I sit down and talk to people at the bar and I come up with funny things in my head, I just pull out my phone, I got a notepad on there, and I write these down.
Yeah.
And then I've just been designing these, and many of them I printed off, and eventually I'll get to the point of putting them out there and selling them to people. So, and that's how I want to fund most of this podcast. So
yeah, it's doable, man.
Yeah.
It's definitely doable.
So we'll see how that goes, and I think we can wrap it up from here.
Yeah.
You've been a great guest, and we definitely have you back. I'd love to have you on here with Chad, because he's a business owner too in the restaurant business. The man with the bistro I told you about, that's worth checking out. So
Yeah,
get
definitely.
opportunity. He's open till 8 o'clock at night. We might be pushing the limits on that one, but I'm sure you got other plans.
You let me know a date, and I'll make it happen.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Myron, the entrepreneur. Thanks for coming to Club Wisdom.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate it, man. Away we go.